This week's episode is brought to you by air conditioning, a marvel of modern science that was once written about by H.P. Lovecraft. Seriously, it's one of his worst stories. Go find it if you want to. It's called Cool Air. Anyway, air conditioning ensures that my apartment is not 87 degrees on the inside at night. Air conditioning. I don't care if you can hear it during the episode, I'm keeping it on. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night. You're going to have to sit through the sound of my air conditioner because it is 85 degrees in my apartment. I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer. So this week we're going to be talking about Vanguard Zero because I was at Anime Expo and I got to play the demo.
What's Vanguard Zero?
It is a new mobile game spin-off of the original Vanguard. It's going to be coming out in the winter.
So like Duel Links? Or like Card Fight Online?
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, indeed. I saw like I think it was on Facebook or something where someone was like lamenting that Card Fight Online never got finished, and they were like, "Come on, guys, finish the job." I'm like, I don't think that's how that works.
No, they definitely just decided that they could make more money doing anything else.
Yeah, it's Bushiroad's equivalent of like a truck up on blocks in the front yard.
Yep.
So, if you follow us on Twitter at Nexus at Night, then you will have already seen my first impressions, but if you haven't, let's go over these again. So, I played the demo twice, and then I also talked to a couple of our friends from UCR, Chris and other Alvin, and we all kind of came to the same general conclusion, which is that this is fucking awful, and even more RNG than the regular game, and going into speculation for a second, I don't think this is going to survive Kaguro existing.
Okay. That's a hot take, no pun intended. Wait, hang on. I'm trying to scroll down to the bottom of your thread here. Okay, you said... I'm just going to read this for the benefit of the listeners, because not everyone has Twitter. My first impressions playing 2 rounds in the demo is that it seems awfully imbalanced and even more heavily RNG reliant than the regular game. Granted, I only had a vanilla Royals deck with no real skills to work with, so bear that in mind. First off, not keeping your drive checks really limited advantage. Maybe we should explain what Vanguard Zero does, like what the main differences are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right before you started that, I was going to say, let's explain the differences.
I'm dumb. Continue.
So, first things first, your deck is now 40 cards instead of 50, so they have just eliminated grade zeros except for your starter. So you get your 1 grade 0 for your starter, and then 13 copies of all your other grades, and these deck ratios are fixed, so you cannot change them. And now your triggers are on your grade 3s instead of grade 0s, which means we've reduced the number of triggers overall by 3, and there are 10 cards less in the deck now. Secondly, instead of guarding normally, it happens automatically now, so grade 2s with Intercept will just force you to attack them before you can attack the Vanguard. And then, if you take damage, you automatically gain 5,000 power instead of being able to guard normally. And then Perfect Guards now are also automatic, so they'll just activate themselves automatically if you're in a bad situation. And then finally, you don't keep your drive checks. If you drive check a trigger, it goes into the drop zone, and if you drive check a normal unit, it goes to the bottom of your deck. But as of this demo, the only way for you to gain any advantage is either through skills, which I didn't have because vanilla Royal Paladin deck with no skills, or just drawing for turn.
What?
So,
the fuck?
they pretty much took away a whole bunch of player agency because decisions on opponent's turn would take too long.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that Hearthstone does a lot of like random choice effects, like for death rattles, is because they don't want a person making decisions on their opponent's turn, because that would slow down how the game is played.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they're applying the same kind of philosophy from Hearthstone into Vanguard Zero, where anything that happens on your opponent's turn is just going to happen.
Yeah. And then, like, it definitely felt faster and more streamlined. The demo rounds only took about 5 minutes compared to, like, 15 for even the fastest Vanguard game.
What? I've played Vanguard games in 5 minutes.
Coming up on the Nexus Core YouTube channel, games where I get my ass handed to me in less than 10, and the only reason I know this is because our editor messaged me like, hey, this isn't 10 minutes, we're not going to get ad revenue. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do with that.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Remember, like, this is going to be a mobile app. It's designed for a bunch of casual scrubs. So, like, the average person playing this game, like, normally will probably take about 10-15 minutes per game, which is a decent amount of time. And if tournaments have told us anything, people can drag a game out to 45 minutes if they wanted to. So, like, I can kind of understand the sentiment of trying to streamline the game to be more mobile-friendly because, you know, you play a lot of mobile games when you're, like, on the bus or something, so you don't always want to commit a bunch of time to it. But I feel like everything they've done just to take away all the agency in the game also just kind of ruins any semblance of balance the game had. And, like, things are even more RNG reliant now because you're relying very heavily on getting the correct grade 3 because skills are going to be a lot more important now. You need to maintain a healthy number of grade 2s because intercepting is how you guard now. And then, you know, like, trigger checks both on attack and defense are going to be really important because of that automatic 5k gain. So if you get a trigger and get 10k at a time, it's a huge advantage for stopping an attack.
When you get a trigger on a grade 3, are, like, certain grade 3 certain kinds of triggers? Like, Alfred is a crit trigger and, like, you know, somebody else is a heal trigger? Like,
well,
what do you mean?
I believe you can just choose whatever trigger you want on your unit, so...
Are you fucking... like, at the moment?
No, when you're constructing your deck, you can choose what triggers to put on your unit.
Got it. That's weird, honestly.
So they put all the decisions in deck building rather than...
Yeah. But...
And I see... So, further on the Hearthstone point, the reason that they make you attack interceptors first is because intercepting would be a choice the opponent could make.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to remove that choice, they just have to make you attack the interceptor instead.
Yeah.
And with intercepting, you often would have to add more guard to it to, like, fully block an attack, depending, you know, what stage of the game it is. With you having to attack the interceptor first, that means that you are taking a full scale attack away from your Vanguard, no matter what it is.
Yeah. But see, the problem with that now is that retire skills become inherently broken because any retire skill now essentially translates to you can't guard a single attack.
Alright, I activate Mind Crush and call Protect Gift. Now discard all your Protect... That's basically what it feels like.
Yeah, so, like, I think this is just speculation, but I feel like retire skills are going to be incredibly overpowered because of how important intercepting is. Like, when I was playing the demo, I would just slowly grind in the AI out of grade 2s, and, you know, as soon as they ran out, I could just push extra swings at their Vanguard, and they can't handle the increased aggression because you don't really have any agency in guarding anymore.
So, you said your deck was skill-less, right?
Yeah, it was like... Or any skills were just, like, counterblast gain power. The only things that really had skills were, like, Alfred Early, which I never drew, and Blaster Blade, which I also never drew.
Okay, so... But, like, the AI had Kagero and, like...
No, we were both using the same deck.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, like... The demo was kind of hard to judge just because it turned into a completely brainless beatdown game, and quite frankly, it just felt like whoever got better luck won, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got lucky, I consistently drew my grade 2s, which means I could beat out the AI. Like, when other Alvin was playing the game, he never drew a grade 3, and so the AI just kept grinding him down. He was also having, like, mechanical problems where, like, he just couldn't place cards properly in the front row for some reason. So that didn't help, but I don't know. There was, like, it was like technical problems. I'm pretty sure it was a problem with the phone, but
Oh,
when he was
okay.
trying to drag cards onto their proper circles to like ride or call them, he couldn't get them onto the front row correctly.
Weird.
Yeah. But like even then, the fact that he never drew a grade 3 meant he just fell behind so quickly. And because you don't get to keep your drive checks anymore, you don't really have a chance to correct your hand.
Man, that's a lot to think about.
I know,
Yeah.
and I don't really know where to start.
So let me ask this question. In your opinion, did it feel like Vanguard?
I mean, it really didn't because they took away all of your agency. There were no real decision points to be made. I didn't have any skills to work with really, so that was never a factor. I just called units, they did their thing, and I just crashed them into whatever unit I could attack. Like if they have an intercept unit, I just crash into that, and then once they were out of grade 2s, just attack the Vanguard. So like the game just felt really dumbed down. It wasn't very dynamic.
That might be attributed to just what deck they were
Yeah.
having you use and stuff, but I think so far grade
But, like,
2s.
Even in the regular game though, if I were to give you that same vanilla beatdown deck, there will still be decisions to be made about what cards you use to guard, whether or not you want to harass the opponent's rear guard or just go for all out aggression, right?
Yeah, and you still have like counterblast for costs and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah,
not even like that skill or that decision of, do I leave my field empty so that they'll be forced to attack me so that I have counterblast, or if you're on the opposite end of that equation, they put a bunch of stuff on board and I don't want to give them counterblast, do I start harassing rear guards? Now it's kind of taken out of your hands.
Yeah, like you have to attack the grade 2s if they exist, and then once they stop existing, you might as well attack the Vanguard because getting that tempo quickly is better for this more simplified version of the game.
Was the field any different than a normal Vanguard field? Kind of like how
Nope.
Duel Links is? It's all the same?
Yeah, that's the same. It's
Okay.
just these rule changes.
Do imaginary
was-
gifts exist?
No, they don't.
They do not. Okay.
And it's still 6 damage, right?
Yes. Yeah. Also, like, I could see my opponent's hand when I was playing the demo. Like, that was a thing.
That was
Well, I
probably for tutoring purposes then.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, even if you can see your opponent's hand in the full game, like, I don't know how much that actually affects things anymore because all of the guarding is automatic. You kind of have to deal with it no matter what. So, like, knowing that your opponent is out of grade 2 basically just amounts to like, okay, well, I know I'm winning slightly faster now.
In the grand scheme of things regarding like card games, knowing what's in the opponent's hand doesn't really matter as much in Vanguard on the whole than it does in something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I guess Magic. Is it like that in Magic, Matt?
Yeah, and hand knowledge is incredibly important.
Okay, yeah, because like in Vanguard, really all you gotta know about is, do they have like enough to guard, or is there a G guard?
Well,
Or
like,
something like that?
if you knew your opponent's hand, there like you could just make like these all-in plays like
Yeah.
easier, right?
But like,
Yeah.
it's different compared to something like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you start like setting trap cards, or you have hand traps or something like that can disrupt your plays on your turn versus
Mm-hmm.
like making the decision at the beginning of the turn and nothing changes.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, with guarding and everything, like, knowing when to be able to commit more is pretty important, and, like, the new systems within Vanguard Zero take all of that away, so I feel like hand knowledge is even less important now. It's just a matter of, did I grind my opponent out of guard yet?
Did you have fun?
I mean, really, no. Like, a lot of that is also just because of the podcast, right? I was really thinking about how these mechanics would affect the game, so...
I think that kind of like colors our perception as Vanguard players in general, or at least it does for me. Because now every game I'm playing in real life, I'm trying to like look for things, either for possible episode ideas or how much I can complain about the Katarina and Ichikashima strides from Premium Collection. Can you tell I'm salty?
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Regarding the rest of your first impression, was there anything we didn't cover?
Let's see.
Did you still get to choose the attack order that you make?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
you can still choose
And
the order you're
about
attacking
the forced guarding.
in. Mhm.
Now is it going to guard rears as well?
I don't think so.
So
Like,
it doesn't. So when your opponent attacks a rear, it just lets it die.
yes.
But when it attacks your vanguard, it immediately throws down a card to guard enough to guard the attack.
Or
Well,
tries to.
No, it'll only throw down a perfect guard. You can't guard at all anymore. It's just intercepting and perfect guard.
Oh, I see. So calling grade 2s and attacking with them is the same as guarding in some
Yes.
sense.
So
Got it.
that means that like grade 2s and stuff like that with effects that you want to reuse suck now. Because if everything's being automatically attacked first, or something like that, then you have no agency in protecting them. So stuff with on-play abilities become a lot more important
Yeah.
in this game than they do in IRL.
Yeah, I do want to address like the RNG factor because one thing that's really sticking out to me is the fact that your deck ratio is fixed now. You can't really change the ratios to try and experiment with different builds. You have to have 13 of every grade. So I feel like this really increases the RNG factor, or just because with these new guarding rules, grade 2s are incredibly important to maintaining your tempo, right? You need to constantly be refreshing your grade 2s in order to guard. And then also being forced to have 13 grade 3s means you're now playing 3 or like 4 actually grade 3s in order to be able to fill out the entire slot. And how many decks actually have 4 cards they want to ride consistently?
Probably none.
So yeah, like I feel like RNG is going to be a huge factor now, just because if you don't draw enough grade 2s, you're going to keep taking attacks to your Vanguard, you're going to fall behind in damage, and you don't really have any way to stop it. And then, like, if you ride a bad grade 3 that you don't want, and your opponent rides a good grade 3, you're hit so much harder than in the current game, where, at least in this current state of the game, you're probably running a bunch of things that you want to be able to ride, or like you're kind of okay with having it.
Well, in Standard's case, like clans that have 2 grade 3s that have similar skills or accomplish something of the same goal are okay to be on. And in the case of Premium, you're striding, you don't care. So
Yeah.
like that's a lot more weight to be putting on your grade 3s, and I think if like you mentioned the thing with the triggers where you can assign them to your grade 3s, that seems like it's supposed to involve deck building, but they're taking out deck building and skill based elements of the game. They're taking out, like you said, ratios between grades. Now it's just 13, 13, 13. And they're also taking out the imaginary gift system, which, as we've talked about multiple episodes ago, and probably will in the future, that adds depth to the game that they're taking out. You are filling up your swimming pool with concrete here.
Yeah. And also, like, we're going way back to the beginning of OG Vanguard, so, like, I feel like even back then, things like Imagine they invented a card that just said Counterblast 2, you can't guard this attack. Like, how crazy would that be?
They kind of have that. It's a card that you flip a card in G zone face up, and they can't use zeros or G guards. And it's for Wood Clan, and you can combine it with Silent Tom.
Yeah, but like
Help
no,
me.
but like imagine way back in the days of OG Vanguard, you just had a card that said Counterblast 2, you can't guard this attack anymore.
I think the most insane skill with that was like Dote, and that wasn't guard restricting, that was restand.
Yeah. But then like that's basically what all of those Counterblast 2 retire card becomes now. I just feel like with this system, the balance is going to be completely fucked.
So instead of, alright, I retire your Interceptor, it's I retire your ability to guard
Yes.
and the ability to attack me next turn to an extent.
Yeah, so like you're relying so heavily on being able to keep refreshing your cards, and then I don't know if having additional draw power will really mitigate this because like your intercepts on the field are all you really have to work with. So I feel like retiring can still do something as far as just piling on damage.
Are all the triggers like Vieira where crit draw heals front, or are stand triggers back?
I didn't see because the deck they gave me only had draws, heals, and crits.
Okay, I was gonna say because if it's narrowed down to okay, you can do that, but there's only 3 attacks in a turn. I guess that makes sense for balancing, but then that fucks over a bunch of clans where their whole deal is multi-attacking.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like every time you take damage to your Vanguard, you gain plus 5,000 power automatically. So I feel like restanding is going to be in this really nebulous place now because, let's say you swing at a Vanguard, now that's 16k, and then you swing again, that's now 21.
Oh, they put everything back to 11k base now?
Remember, they're just straight up using old Vanguard cards.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, like, it just seems like I'm not sure, this is just speculation, I feel like restanders are going to be weak because, like, after a couple of attacks, your opponent's going to just gain a bunch of power automatically, and if they get a trigger, that's just gaining power over you much faster, so I feel like the most powerful things are going to be retire, because that's one attack that they can't guard now once they lose an intercept, and then guard restrict too, because if you have 3 attacks, you can take out both intercepts, swing with your guard restrict, and then their only way of stopping that would have been a perfect guard, but if you take that away, what are they going to do? They can't stop it.
Where's the fun, Bushiroad? What have you done?
So you mentioned that when they take damage, they get plus 5k. And so that makes it just hard for your opponent to deal multiple damage in one turn. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think that's the idea, but I feel like with 3 attacks, that's still not that much, just because, like, first attack, let's say, it goes up to 16. If you boost, you can still hit that, and then your third attack from the Vanguard, you have the possibility of triggers, and then usually your Vanguard will gain some kind of power, so I don't know. Like, I feel like it'll stop multi-attacking and restanding to an extent, but I think that just puts a heavier emphasis on making big columns and being able to retire your opponent's intercepts.
So, Kagero broken. Got it.
Yeah. Like, that was basically my first thought walking away from this. I was just like, oh, holy shit, Overlord is going to be so fucking broken. And, like, Overlord is from the first set. It's, like, card number 1 in their card list, right? I don't know how they didn't think of this.
Maybe they did? Or...
Because, like, if you think about Standard, we kind of had, like, a weird balance for a while, and it took the course of a year for Bushiroad's bad habits to kind of slip the game back into a state similar to G-Era, but here, I feel like, right at the beginning, like, card number 1 is already completely broken, and I don't know if this will survive. Okay, it's number 4 in their card list, but, like, still.
Can't say we're not accurate about stuff.
Yeah. Like, right away, the first set, one of the first boss units, already kind of broken.
Did any of the cards that you played with have Counterblast or Soul Blast costs?
Yeah, they did. I didn't really have an opportunity to use them, though, because it was just gaining power.
Okay.
Why do you bring that up?
I just wanted to see if they kept the same costs in the original game.
Yeah, it seems like they're just transplanting all of the cards from the original game into this format. But the thing is, like, none of these cards were designed for this format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have like a possible theory. What if this demo was to like just showcase the UI of Vanguard Zero and not necessarily what cards are going to be in it? So like they're like, okay, we're just taking the images of cards that aren't being used anymore and just showing, okay, you can, turn grade 3s into triggers and like just see how the programming works, and maybe they'll change something in the future. Like, if knowing, let's say for some weird reason, some Bushiroad executive was listening to this podcast and he was like, damn, those Nexus at Night guys, they were right about this. We gotta clean up our act. What do you think they could do to make this a fun mobile experience, something like Duel Links or Hearthstone?
See, I don't know, because, like, fundamentally, the ability to manipulate your opponent's board is going to be broken, right? Like, lock and retire are just going to absolutely destroy any balance.
Lock, retire, bind, putting in soul, returning to literally anything.
Yeah. Like, anything that can take a grade 2 off of the field is going to be completely broken, because that's just an attack your opponent can't guard anymore. So, like, they would have to be extremely heavily costed, or like heavily restricted so that you can only do it a limited amount of times in a game. And then, like, in addition to that, because perfect guards are automatic, like, once you're at 4 damage or above, the AI will just decide to perfect guard the first attack that comes at you. So, like, let's say you had a unit with 2 crit and then a unit with 1 crit and your opponent's at 4 damage. You can just swing with the 1 crit unit, they'll perfect guard it, and then you can swing with the 2 crit unit and win.
That's bad design, my dudes.
Yeah, so, like, I feel like perfect guards would have to be manual so that you can control when you use them. Right now, I think the system just makes it too easy to juke perfect guards.
See, what's so bad about having, like, opponent interaction during the turn? Like, Duel Links has opponent interaction. That seems to be doing pretty well.
I guess they just see, like, games are always going long at their tournaments, so they're afraid of their mobile game taking up too much of a person's time, because, mobile games are something you play just in your spare time, like on a break, during your commute, etc.
I mean, part of me thinks that if you can fix this with a very simple solution, which is a timer. You give them, like, what, a minute and a half to make a decision on any basic thing. Like, obviously, with the more complicated effects, like, far in the future, like, stuff like Intimidating Mutant Darkface's ability, the Soul Blast arrest something, you can't really have that. But you could, like, just the ability to make guarding manual would probably do a lot of things. I think the idea of your deck building is more about the triggers now than in the units you're picking. Whereas before, triggers are a foregone conclusion. You got 16 of them, 4 of them are probably going to be heals, and the rest, you can just kind of hand wave it most of the time. Now it's, all right, I have 13 of these, and they're on my grade 3s. I got to make these count, and then you have, like, your little selector wheel.
Yeah.
I think,
and also, like, every time you drive check a trigger, that's a grade 3 going in the drop zone. So, like, as you drive check more, you're just getting rid of grade 3s.
Yeah.
So, again, if you brick and ride the wrong Vanguard, your odds of correcting that just keep diminishing as the game goes on, where in the current game, we have all of these resources to try and fix it.
I think Grand Blue has the potential to do some wacky shit with that. First turn, drive check the grade 3 one, it goes into the drop zone. Alright, I'll use it still a ride from drop. Assuming they use, what's her name, like, Nedro, not Nedrodora, what was her face? Whatever. The one from Grand Blue where it's Counterblast 2, ride from drop.
So, what do you think of all this, Matt?
I think that I really just would have preferred if they would have just put actual Vanguard on, like, a mobile app.
Yeah, me too.
Like, people are already play Vanguard. If you put Vanguard on a mobile app, people are going to want to play this game. I understand the Hearthstone, like, idea of, like, not having things happen on your opponent's turn, but also, like, for me, I don't particularly like Hearthstone. So, like, and Magic Arena is, like, great, and has interaction with your opponent's turn. Obviously not on mobile platforms yet, but like very soon could be. And like, just people want the game, not like a fake image of the game, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Magic Arena is like you just play it on PC, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so how come Vanguard never really got like a Bushiroad licensed version of that? Because there's like CFA and stuff like that, but it never. That's like a bootleg thing. You don't have. You don't really have like Bushiroad, like Cardfight Online. I guess was supposed to be that, and then it never was. Hell, the ability to just test decks that you don't have, or maybe you want to play with something but you don't want to spend the money on it. Having like just do it like Spotify. You do like $5 a month. You get this subscription service, and then you get to play Vanguard Online without having to deal with, just the stuff. I don't necessarily think it needs to be on your phone. Mm-hmm. I think they're just trying to do this because, like we've mentioned 80 times this episode, it's because of Hearthstone and Duel Links and whatever else.
So I think one thing that I think would be very valuable is just like, and you were getting close to this, and I thought I'd say it explicitly. It's just the ability to like test decks like 50 games in a row.
Yes.
Like, it's pretty hard to find one person who's willing to sit down across from you and play 50 games against, like, literal random decks. Mm-hmm. You just can't, that's just not feasible. But with an online client, that is a feasible thing that could happen. You could play 50 games in a row against, whatever decks people bring, and, like, a lot of that will probably be the best decks in the format. And so it makes it a whole lot easier to test decks and, tune decks when you have that kind of an online platform.
Yeah. And so that's kind of... You can also just play against an AI if you're not in the mood or there's just no one available.
AI tutorials, AI matches, like that's easy to fit in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be nice, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously don't think there's like enough money in it or something, but like, I just kind of wish something like that existed. And I feel like this is ensuring in a way that it never exists.
Yeah. And really, I don't know how long this mobile game can survive on this format. Like, just from the first 4 clans introduced, I feel like a lot of them are going to have the tools to really break the way they've streamlined this format. That's so... I don't know. I imagine this endeavor is just going to be something like, they put it out for a couple months, people will play it, realize just how shitty and unfun it is, and then... anyone trying to play the game is just going to get scared away by whales who have all the best decks and can beat them really easily.
Whales?
Yeah, like people who spend a lot on mobile games and stuff.
I did not know there was a name for these kinds of people.
Yep, they're called whales.
They're called whales.
And following on Twitter and watch what they do is called whale watching.
That's that one seemed like it kind of wrote itself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get hit with the lingo or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just overall, I walked away from this feeling like this is going to end up like a lot of their myriad card game attempts. It's going to come out for 2 months, no one's going to play it. The people who do play it are going to have a terrible time with it, and then it's going to die.
So, Luck and Logic?
Dragonborn?
Yep.
I'm trying to think of all their other terrible TCGs that have failed. Yeah. Luck and Logic, Dragonborn, good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dueling Network... I quit Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2012 with the Inzektor format, which, fuck that thing. And
well, you didn't like getting your board blown up?
Yes, exactly. I loved it, buddy. I loved it. But Dueling Network was a website that was free to use. It was not, sponsored by Konami. So, years later it got taken down, but between 2012 and then... every once in a while, I would hop back on Dueling Network just to play a couple games with a couple of randos, because sometimes you get that itch, but maybe you don't want to jump back into the game right away. I don't think Vanguard has been around long enough to have a lot of jaded players like that, but I do think that if they were to pull do something like that, even if it's just on your browser, I think it would do a lot for the community, and it would also do a lot for expanding the community. Because if you go check out this TCG I play, like my roommate is currently doing right now, and I go, do you want to learn how to play? He goes, yeah, and then I have to go find 2 decks for us to use, and then it has to be standard format. Like, if I just showed him that, a game you can download or a browser extension or something, then I could just turn him loose and have the tutorial do the rest, or like we were saying with the AI thing. It seems like such a simple solution, and I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot by trying to do this bullshit pseudo Duel Links thing, Hearthstone thing.
Yeah, I think we all had some reservations when they first showed off the new format and we saw the grade 3 triggers, but now that we know the full extent of the rules, this just seems dead on arrival to me.
No love for the Friends intro?
No,
Okay.
definitely not.
DOA. So, do we have anything else we want to mention about this?
I don't think so. We've talked about all of the various problems of the game, did a little bit of speculation on how future support will pan out.
One thing that is true is that Bushiroad does make a shit ton of money off of mobile games.
Yeah.
What is it? The Love Life game, and then do they own Bang Dream as well?
Yeah, they own, if it's an idle anime thing, it's probably owned by Bushiroad.
But they're mostly selling idle shit, which is and this is not that.
Yeah.
So the thing you make here has to have probably more content than their mediocre rhythm games.
Here's what I'm proposing. Bushiroad, buy Card Fight Area, fix up the UI, and just make it part of the browser, or make it easier to download on a Mac so I can play it. Just
do anything besides this.
exactly. Yeah.
Right?
This is just brainless and boring.
Speaking of anything besides this, Root Beer, you were at AX. How was it? How was the rest of the Anime Expo?
I enjoyed myself. The lines were horribly managed, and it took fucking forever to get in on the first day, always.
That's just being at Anime Expo, so you have to come up with more than that.
Yeah. But, I tried to go to the Fate Grand Order panel, and I only arrived an hour beforehand, which was a horrible idea.
An hour before is late. That's what the old saying was, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I still got in, just barely.
My favorite is when you're in a line and you ask, hey, what is this line for? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like...
Thanks.
and you have to gamble. You're like, this better be something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then,
Go ahead.
I visited the Bushiroad booth to buy some Love Life stuff for a friend, and then I just saw, 5 other idle things lying around. I'm just like, what is all of this crap?
Idle shit, man. People love that shit.
Actually, I'm pretty sure, 3 of those 5 things were all actually Bang Dream, but I didn't know anything about it going in, so I didn't care. All I know is I saw, 6 different idol groups, and I didn't know any of them, but they were all owned by Bushiroad. Although, after buying that stupid $55 box, I might actually get into Bang Dream just because of the weird sunk cost fallacy.
Bro, no, don't do it.
Any cool cosplays?
There was a guy cosplaying as a box and he would just let people draw on it. That was cool. I didn't really take any pictures of the cosplays.
I saw one from my friend Trace where it was the guy who he had one of those sandwich sign boards over him where it's on both sides, and it was that episode of SpongeBob where Mr. Krabs has to steal the #1 hat, and then he draws a ghost on a piece of paper and puts it through SpongeBob's window on a fishing. He was the piece of paper with the ghost on it. That was his costume.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I've never gone to Anime Expo except for one time. That was in 2012. I was dating a girl who was obsessed with the anime Hetalia.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Shout out to Drew, by the way. She was Sarah at the time. He is now Drew. Anyway, so she had dressed up as
Dead naming? Shake my head.
what?
Dead naming's pretty fucking rude, but alright.
Dead naming?
Yeah.
What's dead naming?
Like-
Exactly what it sounds like.
Bringing up a trans person's old name after they converted.
Yeah, that's rude as fuck. You should not do that.
I did not know this. My apologies. He had dressed up as Italy, and then he had me dress up as America, which, if you go way back in my Facebook profile pictures, you can see me there, facial hairless. This is before I had the ability to grow a beard. And on the second day, I dressed up as Sanji from One Piece, which was pretty fun. I never really went after that because I don't have enough zeal for anime and its affiliates to really go. And most of my friends are weebs anyway, so I can get the living through someone else's view of just social media, like you and Chris and all them.
Damn
Like, if you're not into weeb shit, Anime Expo is not worth it. You're just going to be uncomfortable in the crowd of gross, sweaty nerds.
Yo, sometimes if you are even into weeb shit, it might not be worth it.
Yeah,
It's called LineCon for a reason.
yeah, it is.
LineCon?
They can mail out all of their passes in advance and still have a 2-hour wait to get into the door.
Yep.
So
It is.
even if you bought them in advance, you still have to wait just to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I arrived at 8:30 on day one, and that was a mistake, because I didn't get in until 11.
Wow.
Now, shout outs to the people who just during an earthquake just like, no, I'm not fucking moving.
Yeah,
That was on the 4th of July, right? That one?
yeah.
Oh, okay, so fun story about that. The 4th of July earthquake, it was 10:30 in the morning. I was getting up to pee, and I wasn't really ready for it, as you often aren't during an earthquake, so it kind of just threw me into the doorframe of my bathroom.
Nexus at Night, the podcast where we go on too many tangents.
Nexus
What?
at Night, the Earthquake Anime Expo podcast.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're already off the main topic. Now we're just talking about Anime Expo.
Yeah, pretty much.
We completed the main topic.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
This is like the
This is our reward.
this is
Yeah,
like
this is
the
a bonus segment.
this is like the part of Pod Save America where you interview the person and you're like, I guess I'll kind of listen still, but not really.
I also, despite not being all that big into Fate, I still walked out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Fate
8 posters.
Fate Grand Order or Fate Stay Night?
Just
Wait,
the
whatever.
franchise in general, but
Oh.
mostly Grand Order stuff.
What posters?
We'll
Did
put
you
it.
see the picture of my weeb den that I posted on Facebook?
We'll
God no.
We'll put it on the Twitter at Nexus at Night. I'm pretty sure that we're done. All right. Find us on Twitter at Nexus at Night, guys. Where can everybody find you?
Find me at Wiggums on Twitter, 2Gs, 2Zs.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse. I bought an art tablet while I was at AX too, so look forward to that.
Oh, that's going to be
Yes.
awesome. You can find me personally at Atlas Novak. You can also find other Nexus at Night related-ish content on the Nexus Core YouTube channel, where we do like games and deck profiles and stuff. Stay tuned in the next few weeks because I did like a whole day of filming and got my ass kicked, and there was a game where like I was playing Narukami against Grand Blue, and it is the memeiest game I've ever played, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, I was Atlas,
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
and have a good night, everybody.